He is especially remembered by older West Bay citizens for his ministry through Christian Endeavor, his prayer meeting, and the special prayer meetings during wartime. He was married to Anne Elizabeth Blackman. Reverend Blackman ministered to the West Bay community when life was difficult and transportation was mostly by foot. His remains are interred in the West Bay Cemetery among the people with whom he lived and worked.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way, positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dan. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks again for joining us on another fantastic Friday as we look forward to welcoming you to be a part of the discussion. Going to start off with something for friends in the East can be a part of, and then 1 o'clock we'll talk about the climate policy. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And they say to whom much is given, much is expected, much is required, some would say. And I think oftentimes, we look at that from the perspective of, well, how much I have materially. But we all have time, talent, and a treasure, as Miss Marlene reminds us. And if we can give joyfully, willingly, lovingly, as appropriate in the timeliness of it, we'll see much good fruit, being born because we sow good seed. So, Mr. Peter Sellers, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully Miss Madhavi will find that reserved parking spot with the red carpet entrance and the wonderful chaperones to accompany her into her fantastic studio. How are you this fine Friday?
I am good, my good sir. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, man. And as we get into the discussion, we talk about, perhaps maybe let me ask two things.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, from your perspective, with the way the world is at now, in our own sort of little sphere, whether it's in our confines of our cubicle, our classroom, or even our wider community, where are we? What are we doing? Secondly, from the perspective of just a population near 8 billion, sometimes they say looking, for a needle in a haystack is almost easier than trying to find, 8 good men. 8 billion. When I say men, I don't mean, the man. I mean, mankind.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And yet, in asking that, hopefully I make it evident as we discuss. I'll share it straight up. We are in an interesting time in human history, with all the challenges and the complications, but the opportunities. Are we using or abusing the resources?
I think we are abusing more than abusing the opportunities. That's the first. Where we are, if we examine what's going on in the world right now, when I could say we're not at a good place. Not at a good place. You see, I take comfort in the scriptures because the scriptures has already prepared me for this. When Jesus was speaking to his disciples in Matthew 24, they asked him, Master, what should be the sign of your coming, and when shall be the end of the earth? He said unto them, be not deceived, first. Secondly, he says, many men shall come in my name. Third, he says, there shall be wars, rumors of wars, earthquake in diverse places, nation against nation. Are we not seeing this today? It's quite evident. Now, as far as we are concerned, where we are in Cayman now, we are in our own little bubble, but pretty soon it is going to be at our doorsteps. There are other things that are actually here now, and we are dealing with it according to how it comes.
That bubble may be more evident because of the size and nature of the Cayman community, but maybe because this is the space in which we occupy.
Right.
But that bubble could be in a part of the region, in a part of the Western Hemisphere, in a part of the globe.
Yes.
But that bubble doesn't mean that we're isolated nor insulated. But when we use that, I wonder sometimes if we think that that bubble is A, protective, and worse, B, somehow seen in such a negative connotation. Right? You have pigeons, you put your pigeons in a cage.
Right.
To protect them at much times.
Right.
Not going to get into whether you should cage pigeons or whether after they've been caged they're so conditioned that you open the door to the cage and they may take a flight but always return. All that aside, the idea you're trying to protect your pigeons from the chickens, from the dogs, from the neighbors, right?
Right.
The bubble is also our children, where we try to protect them, as we say, we shelter under the wings of the mast and the like.
Right.
So a bubble can be a protective thing.
Yes.
The ozone layer perhaps is a bubble.
Yes.
Take it away and the protection is gone.
Yes.
So maybe we should expand that bubble and include the word.
And include the word?
Yeah.
All right, listen. First thing to start with. To some, this bubble is a figment of their imagination.
Okay.
That's the first one. They're safe according to how they see it. According to how they see it.
Yeah.
According to how they see it, they're safe.
Right.
If we put the word with it, if we are not living, so to speak, according to the teachings, amen? If we're not living according to the teachings, then we are fooling our own selves. The teachings provides a security for us. Biblical teachings we're referring to now provides a security for us.
Yeah.
He says, if you believe on me, then you shall be saved.
Yeah.
Amen. However, if you do not believe on me, then you are not. Now, from my perspective as a child of God, as a servant, my thing is, I believe on the Savior, and I believe I've been redeemed. So therefore, I am now protected from everything else that has been
that bubble also then could be, for many of us from this part may appreciate the context. You're hiding behind your mama frog tail, your grandma frog tail, right? To feel safe.
Yes.
Expand that to the wider community.
All right, listen. Your mama can't save you. Your grandma can't save you.
All right.
Jesus can save you.
Right. All right. Let's let people meditate on that for a second. Let's pause. Let's welcome Ms. Madhavi after the break.
Yes.
Let's talk about what we got planned for later.
Yes, sir.
All right. Please join us right after this break.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
I can do this.
We believe in you.
Each day brings hope.
Every day, millions of people celebrate their recovery from addiction and mental illness while others begin their journey. Be a part of it. Share your strength, support, and hope. Join the Voices for Recovery. Together, we are stronger.
Join the Voices for Recovery and attend one of our upcoming workshops to learn how you can support someone impacted by substance abuse. District workshops will be offered during the month of September in West Bay, Georgetown, and East End. For further information, contact the Department of Counseling Services at 949-8789.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome and thanks for joining us. And a quick reminder, 1 p.m. after headline news, we'll welcome our guests and talk about the climate policy. But right now, truly honored to welcome once again Ms. Madhavi Mathura to her studio. Peter Sellers joins her, and you know it's interesting as we were talking earlier, and a word that kept resonating, you know, as you were speaking, courage. You know, not just courage on the fire, how that is. You know, not just courage on the battlefield, not just courage in the court when you need to dig deep to be able to pull off the win. Not just courage to stand in the gap and speak against the evils and atrocities of the despots, but courage sometimes to bring that student to a sense, you can go in front of your classmates and talk about your school project, what you did summer, and even at the 5-year-old or the 55-year-old, sometimes we need encouragement to have the courage to be courageous, right?
Yes. A lot of spins on the word courage there.
Yes, on a Friday as well.
Yes, that's okay. We're alert. We're good.
And this is what I like about you. One of the many things, you are courageous. You are encouraging. You have an example and a willingness to almost redefine many of the things, but to remind us of the time in which we live. And despite whatever advances we may have had in science, as some have been prone to talk about the science, I still find that to be one increasingly offensive way, but nonetheless, that's another day for another time. Women in this Western world we talk about championing them, but we don't elevate them and celebrate them. And women in the context of Cayman's history, to see who they are, what they represent, where we are because of our mothers and wives and sisters and daughters and grandmothers and aunts and all of the valiant efforts of our courageous women. And here you are, you know, a few decades later, a few generations later, with that same level of spirit of the soil, maybe not born of the soil, but of that same spirit.
Yes.
And that, I think, is great. So I want you to guide us into how you've come to where you are. What is it that we want to achieve? And maybe to say the wise came from the east. What better place to continue that courageous, valiant effort than in East End this evening?
Okay. Well, you've mentioned a number of things there, Sterling DWAYNE. So let me address them in order as I remember them. So you talked about courage. And speaking in front of people is something that's courageous. And one of the things I remember, I think I must have been 11 or 12, and in school, and it was a Dutch school, we all had to make presentations. It was mandatory. And you had a certain amount of time. But what we all had to do at the beginning was sit in front. You sat on a desk, and you had to look from left to right or right to left at everyone in the eye before you started speaking. So you literally just stopped and looked. And it just kind of, it may have been a contributor to diminishing fear later down in the road, or even for that one particular presentation. But that's one thing that people feel maybe anxious about sometimes, and it's for all of us, myself included, when you have lots of eyes coming back at you staring and they're expecting something. But you just have to remember people are people, and everyone has a gift. Everyone is courageous. I know you said I'm courageous, but I believe everyone has that in them for different things. Some people are courageous to go out to sea and to battle the waves and seasickness and everything and catch a big draft of fish.
What I'm hearing is
so courage is in all forms, all shapes and forms. And then you mentioned women as well. Women are an important, I was going to say backbone, but more than a backbone, they're the weave inside of a society. They're the ones that get into everything, that they're the support. They're your wives, your mothers, your daughters, your sisters, your grandparents, your grandmothers. And so they are big influencers in every sector of society, from children to adults to the elderly. And you spoke about women, how we had the elderly or the older generation, the previous generations that helped us. And I recalled the statue in front of the Legislative Assembly building where you've got an older woman almost like giving the baton, or it may have been a scroll, to the younger, upright, confident woman that's walking. She's, a step ahead, but she's only a step ahead because that older woman did whatever she had to do with the longer skirt, showing that she had a lot of years on her. And the one in front may look like the courageous one, but there's usually one or many or generations behind you that have led the way and created the path for you to be where you are. And I think that's with everyone's journey. My journey is like that as well. You asked how I got to where I am. In a nutshell, I went through something that was challenging, very challenging, and it brought me to a space where I went to God in a deep way. And a deep way I'll share is I really just started to write from the Bible. I was just copying word for word from the Bible into a journal because I didn't know what else to do. And I did that probably for a few weeks. And I think that was probably my starting point to God moving me out of the secular world into what he wants. And he didn't do it overnight. He's been doing it slowly because that was a number of years ago. So that's a summary to all of your questions.
There's always, and it's not what I think is just a friendship. It's not just a respect for your acumen, both as an individual, as an academic, as a professional, as a business person, but your example. And a small community like this, sometimes we embrace so many and so much from elsewhere, and we fail to look within, to celebrate and to champion, to offer a sense of protection and provision for them, and to offer ourselves up, not as a living sacrifice by any means, not as a martyr, but as an extra pair of hands and eyes and ears to say to whomever, you're wrong now, you're wrong in what you're doing, you're wrong in your own space. Position a person aside. that courage was what those ladies exhibited in such a civil, loving, compassionate way. And that statue, I look at it at least once a week, consciously, for two reasons. The library and they call it the Parliament building. I just think that's doing us a disservice because we're not a parliament yet, all right? My friends will debate that, but that's the side. And then, if my directions are right, looking south, there is the courthouse, not even yet the halls of justice yet. But that anchor, that smallest statue, is the glue that weaves the fabric for this society. Mm-hmm. And that should be millions cubic feet, and it still wouldn't be big enough to embody who we are as a people. And that scroll, passed from the older to the younger, has been taken out.
I want to say that's not the only statue there, because there's also one of a fisherman, right? And he's using, I don't know what that device is called, but he's looking out at sea, and I don't even know how to use it. Use that device. I don't know, Peter, if you were able to share anything on that, on fishermen, but the fishing, sailing, captaining, sea industry is big and prominent in Cayman. It's the foundation of Cayman.
Thank you for reminding us of that statue.
Is, I know you mentioned, you may or may not be off the soil, but the soil is everywhere on this earth. It's not.
I didn't mean you personally. I mean,
No.
Yeah.
I take no offense.
No. I know that.
Yeah, I was here when I was 6 months old. So
no.
Whether that counts or not, I don't know. For me, it doesn't matter. This is
it's home. In the heart. Yeah.
This is home.
Yeah.
But people off the soil, it's off everywhere, because God created man and woman from the earth, or man from the earth, right?
Yes.
And Peter, maybe you can talk more to that. Because Peter and I are co-chairing this. And,
yes, in Genesis, in the book of Genesis, when the Father created Adam. He created the world, of course, and then he created Adam, and he created Eve. He said it was not good for the man to be alone, so he created Eve, the helpmate, of course. He said, be fruitful and multiply. Amen? Now, the Father, in his great wisdom, has placed everything in our hands. What we would need, what we would ever need in our entire life. I guess because we are human, we went away from him, so to speak. We were deceived, so to speak, by the devil, the scripture says. Amen? He, in his great wisdom, has prepared the way for us to come back to him. You see, when we speak about the Bible is both practical and logical. It is. It's practical and logical to the believers, not the unbeliever, because the word says that the Bible is foolishness to the natural man. I'll give you one example. Moses, when he gave him instructions to take the lamb, spotless lamb, killed it in a particular fashion, used the hyssop to put the blood over the lintel and the windows, so that when the death angel comes over, you'll be protected. If you tell a natural man that, he'll say you're talking foolishness. However, the believers that time, they believed, and they did. He also issued another instruction. He said, stay within the house, and you'll be protected, you'll be covered under the blood. What am I saying? How does this transfer to us? Christ is described as the spotless lamb. John says, behold the Lamb of God which taketh away the sins of the world. His sacrificial work on the cross, was done to redeem us back unto God. Now when we receive Christ as our Lord and Savior, this blood is then placed upon us. As long as we stay under the coverage of that blood, then we are protected. If we come from under it, then we are no longer protected. And Hebrews 10:26 says, if we sin willfully after receiving the knowledge of truth, then the sacrifice is not offered unto us. Amen? So some people will say, once saved, all saved. That doesn't work like that. You have to persevere to the end. Amen? Amen.
And individually.
Individually, of course, yes. Hence, that's why it says, examine the cross, consider the cross, and what it means to you. It's a personal thing. Consider it. What does it mean to you? Because we all have our Damascus Road experience. If a man has not met God, then he cannot stand and testify because he's not a witness. Only true witnesses, as true worshippers, believe.
So what's matter with that? Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, I agree very much with what Peter says, like taking the part that to the average person that may not believe in God, may not be a Christian or even believe in God at all, it may sound like things are very far-fetched, or that you're relating events in the Bible to current day, to the end of the world. Nah, I control myself. I make my own decisions. I'm on a career path. I'm whatever. But there comes a time in everyone's life, I believe, that you stop and you reflect as to what am I really here for? Whether you become older, whether there's a crisis health-wise or family-wise or something else that causes you to stand and say, whether you have a lot of money or not, what am I here on this earth for? How long am I going to live? What am I going to do when that time is nearing, or I feel that time is nearing? Whether it is, God forbid, you have a serious illness and you're young, or you're approaching, what you consider the end of your time, whether it's 70s, 80s, 90s, 60s, whatever it is, there is a time of reflection as to, did I waste my life? Did I mess up? Where am I going? What should I have done? And part of this is to bring awareness a little bit to that, to introduce God in a friendly way to people, not in a badgering way or taking the hammer and beating you over the head kind of way. And also maybe to add a little bit of fun into it as well. So we have a couple small skits involved in it, just little ones. But it's trying to bring the word and prayer and real life situations in a genuine way to people, and still an interesting way to people.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Timely.
Yes.
So hope we speak. Yes. Of what we speak is hope we speak.
Yes.
Tell us about it this evening.
Okay. So Hope We Speak is, the title itself is from God himself giving that to me. But let me step back just a little bit before that. God gave me a commission a few years ago to start a women's ministry, a girls' ministry, where you'd have teenage girls paired with more mature women, and they would read the Bible together. So you'd accomplish literacy, and then God would do his own work because they're in the Word. So I was able to get Bibles, and I started to do some inquiries, but I never really got that project off the ground. I just got busy with life, like many of us. And Hope We Speak came about in May, where God said, I want you to do this project on basically an encouragement event. And I don't want you to disobey this time. Because I guess the first one, even though I started, I never really accomplished anything fully other than, providing some Bibles and doing a little bit of prayer. But so this came about very unannounced, if you want to call it that, because it was very recent, and it was in May that I just got this God idea to start this commission. And I'll talk about God speaking. God never spoke to me before, not growing up. And I always used to wonder, what does it mean when someone says God spoke to you? Because I heard that quite often and I had no clue what that meant or what that sounded like. And then God introduced himself to me personally, where, you do from time to time, or maybe even more often, hear from him. And so this was birthed out of, let's just call it a God idea. And it is meant to encourage people. It's meant to teach people a way of praying. It's not the only way of praying, but it's one where you take scripture that addresses a problem directly, and then you take your problem and you put that in the middle, and then you pray using that scripture. So it's almost like scripture, problem, prayer, or a verse, Bible verse, and the problem or the issue, and then taking it to God. answer you. So it's like a sandwich approach.
So going from practical, logical, practical.
Many of us will have a problem. We try to find a scripture to match it, and then we may pray, but not fervently. With your approach, if we read the word, we love it sort of become a part of us, then we can see solutions. We can see examples. I think we have, well, I know you got to get back. You want us to tell us shortly and then take the break and you can get on to your mission.
Okay, that's
yeah? You tell me what you need.
Yes, we will. We'll continue. That's fine.
That's fine? You got time? Okay, so we'll break. When we come back, we'll end up 1-ish. That'll be enough time. Are you sure? You're a very busy lady.
Yes, we'll discuss that.
Okay, all right. Let's pause quickly, and then we'll come back. I will continue our discussion. Please rejoin us.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
One pack of cigarettes costs around $13. Let's add it up. 3 packs a day, 7 days a week, for 52 weeks equals more than $13,000 a year. That's your dream vacation. That's a down payment to your plot of land. That's the cost for a full or partial renovation to your home, or even starting your own business. So you'd rather give up those dreams and ambitions to smoke? Really? Seriously. Smoking can cost you more than your savings. It can cost you your health. Join the Public Health Department's smoking cessation program by calling 244-2889 to register. Our next class begins May 31st. This message is brought to you by the Public Health Department in conjunction with the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Barry's Golden Jerk, the Cayman Brac sensation, ranked the #1 restaurant in Cayman Brac by TripAdvisor and home of the authentic jerk. Barry's Golden Jerk, serving large portions of the best jerk chicken and pork. Open Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday near the airport, or call 917-6713. Barry's Golden Jerk. It's simply better. Why replace when you can respray? At Granite Express Cayman, we can completely transform your old kitchen cabinets with a fresh kitchen respray for just a fraction of the cost of buying new ones. Big news! Our summer special promo is here. We are offering kitchen countertop specials up to 50 square feet installed for only $1,595 CI for granite and $1,895 for quartz. We can make your dream kitchen come true and at a price to suit all budgets. Call 922-0424 for a free estimate, friendly service, fast installation. Hurry! Limited time only while supplies last. Visit graniteexpresscayman.com.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to if she doesn't mind, the individuals like Miss Malavi in any community, but especially in our community. And I say this because I want to be encouraging, but I always want to be honest in my compliments. There's never desire to be false, facetious, or anyway, improper. And you encourage many in everything, your discipline to your business, to your studies, to your volunteering, and now for many of us to our calling, whether it's on the road to Damascus, but more importantly, perhaps on the road to Nineveh. Many of us want to avoid the trek, and if we're not going to go there willingly, we might need to be ferried by some other vessel. The belly of a whale isn't where I want to be, but that way it takes to get me where I need to go. It just might happen, right? So to you and Peter Sellers, thanks very much. So Miss Malavi, again, that's why I said courage, because many of us felt like we we should do something. You know, I want to study more, but boy, the discipline it takes, the cost, the sacrifice of time away from friends and colleagues and family. Or, you know what, this job is nice, but I always wanted to be a chef, you know, so I'm going to leave my law practice for argument's sake, and I'm going to be a chef. Nah, that makes sense. I'm now 15 now, we're no longer 15. We don't have that drive. The courage gets us there. So in East End tonight, what's the invitation?
Okay. Well, the invitation is to come out. There'll be light refreshments and just be part of a setting where we're going to do group work. We're going to focus on one topic. It's on the talents. And so we're going to make it really easy. It's just one topic. We're going to massage it a little bit. We'll have a couple of demonstrations, and then we'll do an activity afterwards. And the activity will be just people sharing of things that are of concern to them and us helping them with the prayer side of things and getting scriptures together.
I know it says East End. What time?
It is 6:30 p.m. tonight or this evening to 9 p.m. We will be there a little bit earlier, probably from 5 to 10 p.m. So if people want to come early, they can. If they want to mingle a little bit after 9, that they can as well.
So a wonderful way to spend a Friday evening to really be, filled with the Spirit, as it were. And it's where it's going to be in East End?
It's at the East End Civic Center, which is the William Allen McLaughlin Civic Center, so on John McLean Drive. So if for people that don't know, if you're on the main road, you come to the East End Primary School, which is a blue and yellow wall on the left. Take a left up there, go to the top, and then right on John McLean Drive. And you will see a sign on the left with the Civic Center, William Allen McLaughlin Civic Center.
And it's a nice little rise as you come up, right?
It is. It's actually a very beautiful rise coming down because you see the sea, and it's quite nice. I haven't been up there in a while, and was appreciating it again recently, very recently.
And what's beautiful about that is that, that vertical climb, I think sometimes is symbolic of our journey to get somewhere. We want to reach the summit, but whether it's the car chugging around because of it's torque, or whether it's you walking and you need to sort of lean into the hill to get yourself, and much less if you're riding a bike, you got to put a little bit more effort.
Yeah, strengthen the legs.
and that reminds us that good things come to those who are willing to persevere. Nothing. Anyway, it's.
I wanted to add. You were just saying, about being hardworking and that kind of thing, and it is something that I have seen many people that are successful be the exact same way that I have been, and I will say the credit goes to my parents because of their upbringing and their teaching. And many successful people probably have the same story. It's their parents that disciplined them, that showed them the way, that encouraged them, that helped them to get an education and all of these different things. But not everyone is as fortunate. And we realize that, society is different now. You have children having children. So I don't know if you'd like to speak to that a little bit, Peter, in terms of the traditional family, the nuclear family, and maybe what it is now and the challenges that people face because you don't have a father and a mother.
It is indeed a problem that is affecting the world. Not just the Caribbean, but the world. Where whenever you do not have the full family structure, when you do not have the full family structure, then things tend to go astray. I mean, some single parent whom will work, of course, by the grace of God, but some doesn't. Biblically, because whenever I'm going to speak, I'm going to have to refer to the Bible. I like to refer to the Bible, the Word of God, because that is my guide. Amen? So, God instituted the family, instituted the marriage, He instituted the family. At the head of Jesus is God. At the head of the man is Jesus. At the head of the wife is the man. And at the head of the man and the woman, below them is the kids. Now, the Bible says the fifth commandment, honor your mother and your father, that your day may be long on this earth. That is the one with promise. Okay. Now, when we have kids having kids, then they do not have anything to teach them. I learned from my father learned from his father learned from his father. The generation continues. Going back into the Bible, whenever Jacob, Isaac, whichever, they pass on the baton to their son and they bless them. Now what we're seeing today is, because we do not understand how the family structure works and how it is important that when, as we mentioned earlier with the lady and the statue with the lady and the little girl handing on the baton, without that, so imagine you are being put into a race, just trucked into the race, no instructions, just given the baton and say, okay, figure it out. You're going to be doing your own thing, you're going to be lost. Now, what am I saying? Because of these reasons, kids suffering from abandonment issues, they suffer from rejection, they struggle with drugs, they struggle with alcoholism, and then I dare not to mention the final one. I dare not to mention the suicide. And these things culminate everything into one. The Bible, if you understand how to apply it, it can solve all that. I'll just briefly give you an example. Now, Jesus on the cross, he suffered our shame, he suffered our rejection, he suffered our pain. Isaiah says he was wounded for our transgressions and by his stripes we are healed. Now, if you understand that as a child of God, then if you grew up without a father, yes, it would affect you because you didn't have the love of a father. But because of being in the body of Christ, you would then say by divine transfer, God has now accepted me as his son. I am now being adopted into the body of Christ. So therefore, I would say he has taken my rejection and now I go forth in his acceptance. He has taken my pain, so I go forth in his healing. He has taken my poverty, now I go forth in his abundance. You have to understand the Bible is practical and it's very, very logical. Now, I've been blessed. I have my mother and my father around me, but I have friends who grew up without their mothers and their fathers, and up to this day it affects him. Big man, and it affects him. And you'll say, boy, if I had my mother, I wouldn't turn out like this. If I had my father, I wouldn't turn out like this. We need to speak to the community, and tonight is very important. This is why when Mother V asked me to, I said yes, because I have gotten these knowledge and how to use them, but I didn't have a platform to put them on. Mm-hmm. I've been in the community 1 and 2 where I speak to people who have achieved the highest level in their life, and they're still empty. Empty. And what is lacking? The love of a family, the love of a wife. Nobody wants them. And I was like, but most persons would want to be where you are. And he says, oh, no, you don't. You wouldn't. And then he says, you're lucky. You have family, you have a wife, and you have people who loves you. Mm. So look at the trade. So then that's why when the Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose your soul? And it goes on to say, what would you trade for your soul? You understand that sometimes we trade the simplest of things and we don't even know it.
What's values, you know? I mean, as you speak, my word to you is oil and water. And yeah, it's just for you. I talk to you more, but for tonight, Ms. Manavi, I mean, I trust that not only the surrounding community. No, we've got to get where we're going. I could spend all day with you and still never tire. You're encouraging. So I'm hoping people will accept the invitation to join you at the East End Civic Center and come out.
Yes, I welcome everyone to come out. Whether you believe in God or not, we're trying to make it, it's a neutral space to invite and encourage everyone to come. So you don't have to feel that you're not of a particular denomination, so you're not accepted or welcome. We welcome everyone, even non-believers, even people that just want to see what it's all about. There's no obligation. It's free. Like I say, we'll have some light snacks, and everyone's just welcome. So, yes.
Well, thank you again for being you. Please let us know how publicly or personally, privately or otherwise, how we can help. And,
Thank you.
I pray that you continue.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, tonight 6:30.
Tonight 6:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Yes.
For those in or near East End, this is a good way to spend some time. I can commend Miss Madhavi to you. She's an amazing, gracious lady, and I trust you'll be as blessed as I know you will be.
Thank you very much.
Let's pause, and when we come back, please rejoin us for the discussion as we focus on the climate policy. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's wisdom news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Ministry of Education invites parents who require assistance in applying for funding from the Early Childhood Assistance Program for the upcoming school year to attend help sessions organized by its Early Childhood Care and Education Unit. The 2-hour sessions will be held at public libraries across Grand Cayman in June and July. For more information about the ECAP help sessions, contact the ECCE unit by telephone at 244-3155 or email at ecap@gov.ky. In international news, a blood test for more than 50 types of cancer has shown real promise in a major National Health Service trial, researchers say. The test correctly revealed 2 out of every 3 cancers among 5,000 people who had visited their GP with suspected symptoms in England or Wales. In 85% of those positive cases, it also pinpointed the original site of cancer. The Gallery test looks for distinct changes in bits of genetic code that leak from different cancers. Spotting treatable cancer early can save lives. The test remains very much a work in progress, the researchers from Oxford University say, but it could increase the number of cancers identified. Bill Cosby is facing a new lawsuit from former Playboy model Victoria Valentino, who says he drugged her and sexually assaulted her. The 80-year-old says Mr. Cosby raped her in 1969 after she had dinner with him. Mr. Cosby was freed from prison in 2021 when his sexual assault conviction was overturned. Ms. Valentino filed the civil suit under a California law that has temporarily lifted the statute of limitations in sexual assault cases. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
HSA's cardiology clinic is now located at Smith Road Medical Center. Our cardiology team provides expert care and treatment for heart conditions such as coronary artery disease, heart failure, arrhythmias, hypertension, congenital heart diseases, among others. The new location offers state-of-the-art cardiac diagnostic testing, including echocardiograms, ECGs, and stress tests. To contact, call 949-8600. At HSA, your heart matters to us.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born in Creek, Cayman Brac on the 25th of September 1939, Henry Mansfield Connolly was the third of 8 children for Henry Kitchener and Olive Connolly. As with many of the men of his generation, he went to sea at the tender age of 15 and worked for Mr. Southwell and National Bulk Carriers for some 30 plus years. During this time, he rose from being an oiler pumpman to the post of second engineer after completing correspondence engineer courses from a school in New York. He sailed on many ships, including the Universe Leader, Universe Defender, or Titan, or Venus, or Meteor, or Transport. After his tenure at National Bulk Carriers, he was one of the few Brackers who worked with Cayman Energy Company doing the ship-to-ship oil transfers off the island in the 1980s. After a medical injury, he retired from sea and started his own plumbing engineer company, C&H Plumbing.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling DWAYNE EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I trust that as a community we'll continually to not just celebrate with our people, we'll elevate them, we'll use their accomplishments as a reason to motivate our own endeavors, and in all our actions that we appreciate that, you know, it takes sometimes a valiant effort on a part of the individual to inspire a nation, but it takes the champion of the nation to encourage that individual to succeed. So as we look around at what we have, we should be grateful. Well, hopefully you're online, not just listening to us on the radio, but since we invested heavily in these devices, go on YouTube, go on Facebook, go on where you can see, because we have a wonderful audience. First off to Miss Lisa Ann McKenzie, Hurston McKenzie. I think I shouldn't forget that. David wouldn't like that. How are you, ma'am? Good afternoon.
I'm well. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much for coming along, and I appreciate the opportune time that afford us, because if we are not serious in endeavors as much as we enjoy life, and recognizing that in all there should be two things that stand out. One, a common sense approach. We joke and say common sense is no longer as common as it used to be, but whether it's scripture, whether it's just the wisdom of the ages, we need to be good stewards of now so that we have tomorrow, and that means working together, but individually, our actions and its consequences. So as we go around the table first, Ms. Lisa, any initial thoughts you may want to share with us?
On
anything, initial thoughts, because I'll share with you. My mind is so engaged that my brain actually thinks it knows where it's going, that it wants to take the feet that attach to the body to a space that is not only, greater heights, but it encourages others to reach the hand that is extended, to empower, to encourage, to nurture, to ensure that we feel that this is the time, this is the now, because tomorrow may not be promised. And whether it's that tree that you want one day to bear good, can my mind go, you better plant it now, but you better till the soil and you better water it, because if not, it'll never materialize. And that's what's happening. We're seeing it, looking back and realizing that 20 years have passed but nothing has happened, and 20 years from now may be an eternity, but it is coming.
Okay.
Don't know how you follow that.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think we can segue to climate change and the climate change policy that we're here to talk about this afternoon. And yeah, some things that you have said have certainly struck a chord and is in fact the foundation of this draft policy, that we do need to start looking at the issue of climate change much more seriously in this country and in small islands on a whole, and that the policy itself looks at that in terms of what we can do today in order to have a better future for not just those of us that are here in this room and of this generation, but in generations to come. Not unlike how for several centuries, thousands of years, indigenous cultures around the world have actually thought of and planned for their communities to survive by looking many, many generations into the future when it comes to their decisions, whether it's their decisions to stay in one place if they are non-nomadic, or whether it's decisions to move to another more fruitful place if they are of a nomadic culture. So I would say that going also back to your point about nurturing, I think it's important for us to understand that we're nurturing not just our natural environment, but we're nurturing our built environment as well. And I'm sure Simon can speak a lot more to that when we get down into the nitty-gritty of some of the policy proposals and specific strategies that we have in the policy that deal with our communities being more resilient, our infrastructure being more resilient, and our built environment on a whole being more resilient. So I think it's useful to bear in mind that whilst we generally tend to think of the word environment as just trees and our water and our reefs and species that depend on all of those, but here today and in this policy, we're really speaking more broadly about our built and our natural environment.
If I might ask, I wonder sometimes if it's more academic than anything else, words like resilient or resiliency and even environment. I'm glad that you shared it. It's beyond, the natural environment, the trees or the seas and the lake. And it's even the people and how we impact all of that, but how that impacts us in terms of the socioeconomic choices and the like. But even resiliency, I look within the Caymanian ethos and the Caymanian people. We are resilient people. We saw the community after Ivan with a great resolve, with a great sense of resilience to rebound. Not saying that we have, by any means, don't claim on that. But we saw it, and it something that has been inculcated in us to date. Are we still endeavoring to ensure that future generations have that confidence in them, to see the strength that is in them, willing to take up the mantle, but to make the sacrifice that our parents and their parents did through service to ensure that there is the sense of safety, security, and stability that the society will have going forward. The access to the beaches, not only because we have preserved the path, but because we've actually appreciated that when we do use it, we use it with a sense of respect for all occupants. We take our, days out into it, but we don't leave anything other than footprints. Yet, how many times have we gone into the dikes or just by the beach side and there's household trash? Not even what was left there, perhaps what was seemingly intentionally, hopefully not maliciously, tossed there. I don't know how to speak to that other than maybe some of the words that have been used by others who have shared maybe the frustration that this is not a good practice, and they've described those who are doing it in a way that is not flattering, but it's commonplace.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you rightly said, depending on who you speak to, resiliency means different things to different people, particularly in the academic sphere. But in the sense of climate change, risk reduction, even environmental protection, it's fair to say that generally it's having a system, whether it's a natural system or a human system, a built system, that has the ability to respond to whatever disruption it is, be it a hurricane, be it an economic recession, COVID, a global pandemic of sorts, being able to respond to that and being able to respond to it so that you are in a better and as good a place, if not a better place than you were before. And when I say you, I mean like that natural system, that built system, whatever system it is that you're referring to. And that's essentially it. And that's essentially also the basis of this climate change policy, is to have a resilient Cayman Islands that's holistic. So resilient biodiversity, resilient ecosystems, resilient economy, resilient sectors within the economy, resilient communities. That includes, everybody in the community, all inclusive, including some people, groups, specific communities within districts that may need a little bit more assistance to build their adaptability to climate change, to build and enhance their resilience, so that that we have a holistic, resilient Cayman Islands. But I would also say that I completely agree with you in that the Cayman Islands and its people have always been and have a culture of being a resilient people. We've had to be as a result of our being islands or an island archipelago, an island nation, being so far away from our quote-unquote mother country, having to be very self-sufficient even from one island to the next, even though we are a group of islands. And I think we've just benefited from having that ethos, ingrained for generations upon generations. And it served us well, certainly after an event like Hurricane Gilbert, certainly after an event like Hurricane Ivan that you mentioned. And we can see things even in our construction sector, for example, not too far away from where we are here in Cricket Square, for example, where each phase that has been built slightly higher than the phase that was built before. That addresses probably some site-specific flooding that they probably saw. And that was not something that they necessarily had to be told to do as a result of a government change in law or regulation. That was just something that was inorganically done because of what you rightly said at the top, common sense. It just makes common sense, which translated into economic sense for the development, which no doubt is continuing to this day by having 100% occupancy in those commercial spaces.
And for not only human habitation, but human protection. And I'm so glad, I think King Flowers and the team over there should be commended. But I believe in looking at, and perhaps we bring Mr. Tim Austin as the Deputy Director of the DOE into our discussion, the notion that maybe our laws or planning regulations or policies, if we look to the Caymanian sort of architecture and traditional building habits, there's the structure elevated on ironwood posts. We can speak to the elderly people and they tell us why they did it, or we can believe we're experts because we just dropped off the flight and talk nonsense. But the cooling, the heating, and the flooding. Tim, before I go further afield and become governor tomorrow, talk to me now and save me from myself.
No, what a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. And you mentioned, want to share some thoughts. This has been a long road. I think it was 2011, was it, when we started doing the first draft policy?
2007.
Or was it? Oh my gosh, Lisa's got a good memory. Yeah, so
but she talked about
when we started.
Ivan and Gilbert. And I'm like, are you that old girl?
You know how old.
I'll admit how old I am.
Well, so it's a real pleasure to see how much work has gone into this. I haven't had as much input this time around, but it's really exciting to see where it's come to. But yeah, to get back to your architecture, and to talk some about the changing. Lisa mentioned about the buildings getting higher naturally. The Cayman architecture was always designed to survive storms. I was always impressed. My friend used to tell me wooden houses were better. They flexed a bit. Concrete kind of tends to break, and it's too rigid. But I'm sure technology's changed now, so I'll probably stay away from that. But what I do know, and that I always found fascinating, was this idea that the first resiliency was Caymanians never built on the beach, or they didn't go anywhere near the coast where the sea was likely to have an impact. The shifting cultures that came in as we've developed and we've brought in, different lines of cultures has led to different approaches, and that long-term common sense that was ingrained in Caymanians to deal with the climate has been somewhat diluted, and so it's good to get back to that and to really look at some of the lessons from the past. So
thank you very much, Tim. Personally, thank you for sharing that, because I would hope that as we bring Ms. Morgan and Mr. Simon into our discussion, that we will look at what is here, borrow from examples from everywhere that are good, don't ignore our traditions or history, heritage, and culture, but be willing to do what our elderly did. They stood in the gap. They had confidence in them. Obviously, you talked about, because of our isolation, so to speak, but I don't think it was the resilience because of subsistence lifestyle. Our history tells us that we traded with the Newfoundland coast. We went afar to the Nordic lands. There was a people who understood what it took, but they had something that I think is lacking globally. Not just common sense, not just respect, but a sense of service and sacrifice. They, there's a practice, they would say make provision. And they were thinking about tomorrow. My father is, every second of every day now I look, man, this man is wise. You know what I mean? But he's just like the men of his day. They understood what was there and they understood what was important. and they made provision, and they respected, and they went into the North Sound to get a dinner of conchs. You know, they didn't get them all there because they were there, because they knew that tomorrow might have been the day after today, but it might have been 100 years from today. So, Simon, with that, if I can ask you first, and you see the trend, right? We leave the best for last, right? Now, before we bring Ms. Morgan in, Simon, when we look at two things, this is the presentation yesterday, start of hurricane season, a lot of government agencies, a lot of private sector entities will have their business continuity plans. We're going to have the responsiveness. We understand that things are changing. Under Premier's hurricane message, that you reference, well, that once in a lifetime storm, maybe once every hurricane season, things are changing, irrespective of our perspective. What are we doing to each other, for each other, and how is that impacting where we are? Are we listening? Are we responding? Are we proactive?
Thank you for the question, and great to be here again and with this panel. I have a friend in Northside, and he's very sort of proactive in the community, Teddy EBANKS, and he always sort of reminds me that there's an element of this kind of godly uncertainty in the climate that's almost beyond our understanding, and that we'll never really fully comprehend climate. It's just so much that it's almost beyond our understanding, and I agree with him. There is that, and I accept what he's saying, but I do think that we can begin to model and understand certain elements of it, and we're moving towards that. And I think for a lot of people, probably climate change, they're not quite sure, how it A, relates to them, or B, what they really can do, whether they really want to lower their climate carbon emission or whatever, but I think we know the sea's been rising. It's risen at least, I think, 3 inches in the last 30 years. They've been doing measurements now from space every 6 seconds. Satellite radar altimetry. For 19 years, they've been measuring the surface of the sea from space. They know it's going up. They know it's continuing to go up. So how quickly has it risen already? Or how much has it risen already? How much more is it going to rise? How quickly is that going to occur? And at what point are Caymanians going to be driving their cars through the salt water and waves entering their home more frequently, and storm surge, and damaging the properties, damaging the businesses. And so, I think what this policy is doing is saying, listen, it's time now that we take action. Stuff is happening. We're seeing already the tides covering the roads in places, North Sound Estates, in the latter part of April. We look around our region, maybe we've been lucky the last couple of years, but we're seeing hits to the Bahamas and PBI, and we're sending our jets out to help people, and it's a matter of time. We're going to get one too again, but I don't think people really sort of fully digest that it's upon us now. And the Premier was there in Little Cayman and meeting with these children, and they're so worried about their future. We grew up at a time, most of the people in this room, not Morgan, but there was very little to worry about. Where we're going to get for a mango, catch a crab, or go swimming, blah blah. It just didn't seem like it was this kind of things to deal with. But now it's the time that I think if we're going to continue, as everybody's said so far, Cayman being resilient, being strong, we're going to have to look at this hard and make some decisions about. It's not going to feel completely comfortable, but we're going to get used to maybe having to build slightly differently, like you say, looking back at the way we did things in the past, maybe. But there's going to be a need to adapt, because this is not just going to be some kind of remote thing, climate change. This is going to be something that's going to affect every single one of us, and it's starting. It's here.
Indeed. Well, Ms. Morgan Golden Eubanks, as the policy advisor for resilience, I wanted, as I was thinking about our discussion, to learn as much as possible from every discussion I have, but in particular for today. And I wanted to have your last voice before we take the first break of our segment, specifically. And I was reflecting on yesterday's discussion at the start of the hurricane season. Some of you have done annual dinner forever through the wonderful sort of leadership of Mr. Samuel over HMCI. Mr. Tatum, I think left us with an alliteration. What? Proper planning, he says, prevents poor performance. See, that's what he has said, hopefully I quote. That notion then, Ms. Morgan, from the idea that many times, as Simon said, the individual don't always understand the impact. As easy as it is, you as an individual, you're now consuming one single product, an aluminum can that contains some beverage, or it's a styrofoam dish, or even if it's some other kind of dish, and you just toss it. It's no big deal, just that one. That one times 100,000 of the people in the Cayman Islands, or one times 1 billion people in certain regions, or 8 billion on the planet. That one has a knock-on negative consequence. Right? How do we get to Simon's point? For us as an individual to appreciate the impact that we're having on the environment. Just like my father said, listen, I'm one person going to the North Sound. I'm not going to get a boatload of conchs. I only need 3 conchs because that's the dinner today. Right? And then there'll be so many conchs that will be stepping on it. But if you didn't preserve that, there won't be any conchs.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is really, not really interesting about climate change, but really, I guess, kind of important is that, some people may see it as, we're talking about all these aspects of the environment, and they might kind of think that it's like an environmental issue. But at the end of the day, our environment impacts us. So it becomes a people issue. And so I feel like, unlike so many other issues, climate change and all of the impacts really forces us to face the reality that we are connected to our environment. We impact our environment impacts us. And so kind of like going back to what you were saying about, our ancestors and how, early days in Cayman, we really had to, learn how to survive. And we had that resiliency probably in part because we had to, there was that survival aspect that was keeping us in check, so to speak. If you did take too much conch, you kind of knew like, okay, well, we would be in trouble with food, with our food supply. So yeah, it just kind of makes us confront this reality that we have to be accountable. We have to take responsibility for the things that we're doing today, because if we don't, then we're already seeing the impacts now, but it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And so delaying action now just means greater costs later on and greater impacts. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
you set the stage, because I think that we need to sort of individualize this effort. And like, again, King Flowers and the group over there, they're looking and responding to what is happening. Perhaps they're leveraging their resources, and perhaps government policies are being responsive to data. And maybe now we can elevate our commercial or residential structures for sensible reasons. Maybe now we have access to the financial and the human resource to be able to achieve that. But unless we are willing to sometimes, inquire, we probably will never get an answer. So when we come, Ms. Lisa, if not, we'll take the break. Or when we come back, maybe we understand, what is the climate change policy. Maybe we understand why we need it. Maybe we understand how to achieve it. We can ask those things, but there's some other stuff I want to ask, because it's one thing to speak, esoteric. There's one thing to look at something that's a moot point. There's another to take action. And, I love good food, but I want to take the time to prep, season, and have it just simmer, so that when I go to enjoy it, it's succulent. And then when I serve it, you feel a sense of love that's in the meal, as opposed to that thing that you pop from the freezer and you throw it in the pot, and 5 seconds later, you consume it. And then 5 seconds after that, you're on your way. That's not a meal, right? At least, unless you're in space. So when we come back, I'm going to ask some more things, and be guided by the excellent team that we have assembled. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway, we are introducing the new boneless hot sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage. With tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our custom closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from May 28th through June 12th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.portercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
The Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency wants your feedback on the draft National Climate Change Policy. Public meetings are scheduled for West Bay, Georgetown, Boddentown, East End, and North Side between the 6th to the 15th of June. To view the full list of meeting dates, times, and venues, visit gov.ky/climate change policy. Join representatives from the Ministry, Department of Environment, Hazard Management, and the National Weather Service to learn about the draft policy and give your feedback. Log on to gov.ky/climate change policy today to learn more.
In order to facilitate pipeline improvement works in the area, Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise motorists and other road users that the northbound lane of Bobby Thompson Way between Linford Pearson Highway and Smith Road will be closed to vehicular traffic on Sunday, June 4th from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. During this time, local access only to residences in the area will be available and flagmen will be on hand to direct local access traffic. Traffic signs will be posted in the general vicinity and all motorists are asked to drive with caution to ensure their own safety as well as that of the Water Authority staff. The Water Authority appreciates the patience and understanding of the motoring public and apologizes for any inconvenience this may cause.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And the wonderful panel we have will be with us until our headlines at 2 p.m. and then some open line thereafter as we talk about the public consultation for the proposed climate change policy. I'm very grateful to Ms. Lisa Ann Hurlston McKenzie, Ms. Morgan Golden, EBANKS, Simon Vauxhall, and the Deputy Director of DOE, Mr. Tim Austin. Everything in most things we have something we want to achieve. And in this policy, maybe help us as a public. What are those things that we're looking at? What's the vision to get us there? And maybe even how we as people can play that role. Not only to help, but sometimes inadvertently to hinder without even realizing it. But Ms. Morgan?
Yeah, so the vision of the policy is to create a climate resilient Cayman Islands that promotes and sustains vibrant communities, a thriving natural environment, and a robust economy where people can live their best lives now and for future generations. So that's the vision of the policy, and it's really important to have a vision because that kind of directs us in the direction that we want to go and what do we imagine for our future. If there's no vision, then how do we know, where we're going?
Yeah.
So that's the vision. And then the goals of the policy, there are 3. The first one is to reduce Cayman's vulnerability and enhance our resiliency to climate change. The second goal is to promote sustainable, low or zero carbon economic activity. And the third goal is to establish a governance framework for climate action, which is future-focused, fair to all, accountable, and transparent. So those 3 goals, they are associated with 7 policy objectives. So they're just kind of like policy areas where all the strategies, the meat of the policy lives. And that's probably the area that the public would be most interested in looking at. And I will give the website in a minute. So the 7 policy objectives, we have interwoven equity, which really speaks to our vulnerable groups, robust economy, livable built environment. So I know that has environment in there, but like Lisa was saying earlier, not just, nature environment, but also the built structures that we've created. Healthy and resilient communities, really speaking to the health and safety aspects of climate change impacts. Resilient infrastructure networks, so our electricity, water, telecoms. Then we have harmony with nature, that's the 6th policy area. And that's, all about protected areas, conservation, helping nature protecting nature so nature can protect us. Integration and coordination is the final policy area, and that's all about cutting across government ministries, departments, working with the private sector to ensuring that these goals of the policy are met. And finally, we have 9 guiding principles that really helped literally guide the creation of the strategies and keep us focused in creating the policy. So I encourage everyone to download the policy. You can go to gov.ky/climate change. Let me look that up again.
Climate change policy.
So it's gov.ky/climate change policy.
All right. And thank you for that, because it just shows that we're human, and sometimes these www. whatever it is not just a country song. So for those of us who are not as savvy as you young folks, if we were just to type in somewhere in our favorite search engine, could we find it?
Yeah, you definitely should be able to. I would probably just Google Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency.
Okay.
It would probably pop up on there, or Cayman Islands Climate Change Policy, something like that. Yeah.
And certainly, as you have the public consultation, people should attend and ask questions. Miss Lisa.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the public consultations, we're currently in that right now. We started about a few weeks ago, just doing some internal consultations within the government, as they are as much a stakeholder as external partners are. In fact, quite important to implementing any of the policy measures that get approved by cabinet at the end of the day. But we had a public meeting in Cayman Brac last week Friday, and Little Cayman the next day on Saturday the 27th. Next week, we have a slew of them, one being in West Bay on the 6th of June at the Sir John A. Cumber Primary School. The next day on the 7th is Georgetown at the University College of the Cayman Islands Hall. And then on Thursday is Bodentown on the 8th of June at the Theolin McCoy Primary School. And all of those public meetings start at 6 o'clock and run for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And you'll have the opportunity, or the public will have the opportunity to see the public, see the policy laid out in terms of the strategy areas, the policy areas that Morgan just spoke of, those 7 areas, and have a walk around the hall or the room where the meetings will be taking place. Speak to the plethora of ministry staff as well as staff from our partner agencies, Simon here included from HNCI and his colleagues, Tim from DOE and his colleagues, and our colleagues from the National Weather Services as well. And those agencies all fall under the Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency. So we're very, very fortunate to have such an expert group with us. And then just to round things out, the following week in terms of public meetings, East End and Northside will be on the 13th and 15th respectively, also at 6 p.m. And in East End, it will be at the William Allen McLaughlin Civic Center. And in Northside, it will be at the Craddock EBANKS Civic Center. But please look out for social media. And as Morgan said, on our ministry website, these dates and times and venues are all posted there in case people didn't catch that.
If I may ask then, because with any attempt to engage the public needs to be willing to step out and be present. With the consultation, we have a draft policy, we have public consultation. From the public's perspective, they come out, they make the representation. For those who may say, boy, I've done this over and often and nothing comes of it, how do we allay any potential perceptions that people may have relative to their participation? What are we asking the public to do? And to what extent, whatever they share, how will that be sort of influencing or impactful on the final proposal?
Well, obviously, we're asking the public to come out to the public meetings and share their concerns about climate change in general, specific policy proposals if they've had an opportunity to read the policy. As I said, when they're there, they will have pretty much the entire evening to engage one-on-one or in small groups with the persons that I mentioned from the different agencies. So we're hoping that it will be much more interactive and much more involvement and a conversation. There will be a presentation, just an overview presentation, pretty much in terms of what we've been speaking about here this afternoon, but going a little bit more in depth. But the intent of each of these public meetings is not for us to speak to the public. It's to hear back from the public in terms of what they feel about this policy, whether they've read it cover to cover or whether they're only just becoming familiar with it that night. Apart from that one-on-one engagement, there's an opportunity to feedback digitally through the website in terms of a digital feedback form. It's not that long, but it does, take a little bit of time to commit to go through and requires a computer. So if that's not something that is, people are comfortable with or have access to, there are other means that, we can get their feedback from them, particularly on the evenings that they come out. And they can, of course, always drop in to see us at the ministry. And also, if they don't want to feedback through the digital feedback form, but still would like to give us their written feedback, they can do so at climate@gov.ky. That's the email address that we have open already available for people to feedback to us.
And I know, I say this with great respect to all, some of us are growing and increasingly apathetic. Some of us are so consumed in our daily lives that we believe, well, I can wait. It's not going to happen now, And, right, Simon?
I think you're spot on. I mean, life's busy, feeding the kids and getting them to school and everything else. But, are we having food and refreshments these events?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that, because I think this is something that, like our ancestors who were willing to sacrifice, who understood, they just didn't respond to what was around them. They were very proactive, and they appreciated that their survival sustainability sort of, I don't know, almost hinged on what they did then and there, not 20 years from then and there. But just globally speaking, there may be some who say, well, it's a foregone conclusion, it doesn't make any sense. So to allay their fears, we're asking the public to weigh in, to share, let us know how much you understand, how much pages on print may turn us off.
Can I just
come in?
I mean, what we're doing at Hazard Management is we would like to eventually, and I mentioned it, get to the point where you could know your zone. That would be that. There would be maps of risk. Do people really want to know that, though? Are they scared this can affect their property value or their insurance if we start to being able to assess your risk of flooding, your likely wave impacts of storm surge? But these things are going to happen, and they're going to, affect, not just our property and our economy if we don't react and adapt, but also, the future. Our children, and the Premier keeps pointing that out. He feels like a sense of duty that, there's young people coming up here in Cayman now. And so Lisa started, way back in 2007. I was part of the group looking at the policy back then with the 5 Cs and everybody. I think it is important for people to weigh in, because it would be great to hear their opinions about whether they do feel like it's impacting them, and in what ways, and what they'd like to see us do. I mean, there may be additional costs associated with proposing that buildings are elevated up on the coastal areas to allow the waves to pass through. Some people might think, oh, you're going to slow down development and push people away, but then other people are going to say, well, we really like the beaches. We'd like to go and hang out with our families on the weekends. We really want you to do this. So there's going to be competing interests, but I think it's important that people get their voices heard. Florida's having to pump water 24/7, 365 back into Biscayne Bay. They've got I think 80 pumps going full time to stop the water coming up in the streets now. That's the reality they live with.
At billions and billions of dollars a year.
Big costs.
Big costs. Which
and
will continue to increase
as
the sea level rises and as king tides become more and more of an issue. So
you're right. 10, 15 days out of the year, we're going to see this. But if we actually start anticipating it now, and as you said, Mr. King Flowers, we saw after Ivan a lot of people moving their generators up onto pads. Maybe that's easier to do than moving a building. But going forward now, we can start to look differently and try to build in resilience.
And I think this helps to inform policy, legislation, and our actions.
Yeah.
Ms. Morgan.
Yeah, so that kind of ties into the climate change risk assessment, everything that you guys were just saying, Lisa and Simon. And so I think a really good reason why the public should come out is that they'll learn more about how climate change impacts could impact them as individuals, as households, as communities. And so part of that conversation will involve talking about the climate change risk assessment and the risks that were identified. There were 50 of them, and 18 were severe. So we can talk about that as well and kind of dive in to more depth in the public meetings themselves. So if people have, specific questions. And then the other thing was, Sterling, you had mentioned, how some people may think that their feedback is not considered. And, we've already received, I think it's about 45 responses so far to our survey. Lisa had mentioned that earlier about how the public can feedback digitally. So that's a really important avenue to feedback if people have access to that, because then we can look at all of that and then look at the strategies, look at the policy, and really think about how that feedback interacts with what we have. So it's definitely, the public feedback is definitely being considered. That's something that's very important to us, and that's why we're here.
I think it's important for people out there, DWAYNE, to understand that the more we can hear back from the public, from every sector of society, and this includes the business community as well, the more it lends weight to the need for the policy, and that can be translated up to the powers that be to ensure that this policy this time round goes through, unlike the fate of the 2011 policy on which this one is built, but obviously has been updated, as Morgan says, with a updated risk assessment. So it speaks to current risks as well as confidence built into what our future risks will be, or at least how much more intense risks in the future that we already are facing, and hazards that we are already facing, as Simon mentioned, will either intensify or will be amplified as a result of continued climate change. We know it's no secret, and it's globally accepted, that because of the level of greenhouse gases already in the atmosphere, that climate change is baked in at least for another 20 years. So that's another generation as we've been talking about before, that will be facing what we're facing, and then some.
Okay.
And what that and then some is you know, it could be argued, but for the most part, the confidence level is there, and it's in the risk assessment, which is also on the ministry's website, that people can go and take a look at the main report, as well as a smaller digestible document that's about 24 pages. But the important thing is that, please, for the listening public out there, come out, engage with us, read the policy, feedback in whatever means that you wish to feedback, and ensure that your voice is heard, so that this policy can get to become our actual national climate change policy, and we can start implementing some of these very needed measures.
Okay, so when we come back from a break, I do respect that you have other engagements, and hopefully through this discussion it'll whet public's appetite for a much more involved discussion at the public consultation in the evenings, and understand the importance. So maybe remind us of the meetings, the website, and a few other things that we could talk. So as we take the break, when we come back, we'll speak to that. Please join us after the break.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
She hear clunk and her car stop. I was just about to send her some money, so I send it straight to her JN money transfer card. It cost me less, and perhaps she use the card, pay the garage right away. She'll get discount through the JN Rewards program in Jamaica. This card make things easy. You can even get funds at any multi-link ATM.
JN Money Transfer Card. Fast, affordable, convenient. Tell your loved ones in Jamaica about it. Sign up is free.
Are you tired of waiting in long lines at the pharmacy just to fill a prescription?
If what, child, let me tell you.
Well, now you can save time and money with ValueMed's online prescription service. Visit ValueMed's new website, valrx.com, and click the Refill Subscriptions button. Fill in your information and choose your preferred pickup location. Or email your prescription refills for ValueMed Walkers Road at rx-wr@valrx.com, and for ValueMed in Boddentown, email rx-bt at valrx.com. Say goodbye to the hassle of waiting in lines, and hello to the convenience of online prescriptions with ValueMed Pharmacy. Visit valrx.com to place your orders today.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
The Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency wants your feedback on the draft National Climate Change Policy. The Cayman Islands is experiencing impacts of climate change, like sea level rise, changes to rainfall patterns, and temperature increases. A national climate change policy is essential to ensuring a strong economy, safe communities, and healthy ecosystems. Download the draft policy now at gov.ky/climate change policy. Send us your feedback by Friday, the 30th of June. Log on to gov.ky/climate change policy today to learn more.
Your Yesteryear Musical, Saturday evenings at 8 o'clock on Breeze Radio. Entertaining, enlightening, and inspirational. Topical with CI cultural and heritage flashbacks on the wonderful music of yesteryear, from the Thomas Edison era to the recent past. Your Yesteryear Musical, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on Breeze Radio, 105.3 FM in Grand Cayman, and 91.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks again for the opportunity and through this forum to perhaps invite, involve, and certainly inform wider populace. And the climate change public policy consultation continues. We have Ms. Lisa and Ms. Morgan from our ministry. You know, and just as the name, Sustainability and Climate Resiliency, speaks to it. The Deputy Director over at the DOE, Mr. Tim Austin, and of course the man himself over at HMCI, you know, Mr. Simon. I'm mindful, as both, you know, Simon so gracious to agree with me, that we are busy people. We are sometimes distracted by the red herrings. Sometimes we're so consumed with our lives that we don't even have time sometimes to do what we want to do for ourselves and need to do. But Ms. Lisa, from this perspective, is it then that we look at this and we're thinking, well, that's going to happen anyway, I can't do anything, I'm the one person? Or is it that somehow we need to be mindful that the action of the individual can affect the group, and this isn't something that we can delay any longer? We need to be present, we need to be informed. Perhaps we need to know how we can respond positively and proactively, not just for future generations, but for now.
For ourselves, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's more in it than just the power of one, right? I mean, and if we all thought, oh, we can't do anything, then we simply don't do anything, and the needle gets moved on nothing. You know, you have 2 feet. You put one in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other, and so on and so forth. And I think that's how we have to look at it. And I think here in Cayman we have, or in the region on a whole, we have a very good track record of obviously responding to hurricanes very well. And I think that puts us in a very good position for responding to climate change on a whole. We are fortunate here that we have a society and a community that are very comfortable with working with each other and sort of knowing what their roles are and pitching in whenever necessary. We have people from Cayman as well as from further afield that have come to live amongst us that bring great new ideas that we have implemented here in terms of more environmental stewardship and environmental responsibility that is just ever increasing and advancing things that we perhaps, as you rightly said before, forgot we did before, but we're taking a different look at it now and putting a new spin on things that's helping us in that regard as well. That will all help us in terms of just general sustainability, but also in terms of preparing for climate change, because as we've been saying before, some things that we have not addressed will be exacerbated as a result of climate change, but climate change will also throw up new things in perhaps new areas that we've never seen them before, whether it's in terms of some sectors of our agricultural activities, new blights, new diseases, new ways of dealing with the soil, new crops that need to be grown or grown at different times of year, whatever, what have you. But I think at the individual level, it cannot be dismissed in terms of what the power of one can do, and then the power of one times 71,000 people in this country, and we're not alone in that. You know, there is an entire region and a global community out there that's similarly addressing these things. We are definitely not alone, certainly as small islands, in terms of a lot of the knowledge base that exists out there. And even within the Overseas Territories family, we have been working on, as Simon knows and as Tim knows, we've been working on these climate change issues for a very, very long time, and continue to exchange ideas, exchange information about new technologies that come up, whether it's about sargassum, seaweed management, or fighting coral diseases, or lionfish. All of these things are in and of themselves disparate issues, but climate change is definitely putting a different spin on them, and we have to ensure that we are addressing them as we go along today, as you rightly say, but to set us up better in the future, for 10, 15 years time, the next generation.
And perhaps some of us may find it challenging to look back a century. Whether we had the good privilege to listen to Ms. Howard's presentation on Wednesday, I quickly harken back to the Vision 2008 exercise. It's a collective effort, and it shows that we have the resource, the ability, and the willingness within our populace to do. We have the precedent that we've done. We now have the motivation to do. So, Ms. Moran, with that, it's a Friday, and God's willing, we'll enjoy Art Week this weekend. We'll embrace the rains, but also maybe we'll be reminded to be good stewards and to appreciate the impact. The website and the public consultations, could you please tell us again?
Yeah, so I hope everyone comes out. So we're starting in West Bay.
Follow Radio Cayman on
6 p.m. John A. Cumber Primary School. Then we're headed to UCCI on the 7th for town. Bodden Town, we have Theoline McCoy Primary School on the 8th, and that's at 6 p.m. as well. The week after, we're going to have East End on the 13th, William Allen McLaughlin Civic Center, 6 p.m. And then finally, Northside on the 15th of June, Craddock EBANKS Civic Center, also 6 p.m. So the public consultation survey is on gov.ky/climate change policy. That's also where you can download the policy. You can also submit any questions or feedback to climate@gov.ky.
Right. Thank you all very much. And I'm looking forward to good reports of excellent attendance at each of the public meetings, but help us to help you to engage and inform and involve the public. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Listen to headline news and then come back for the final closing bell. I'll talk today's open line. Stay tuned.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news. Brought to you by Tropical Plaza on Smith Road.
A celebration at the Kimpton Thursday night marks the 10th anniversary of the Deputy Governor's Award program, with Sarah Orett walking away with the ultimate civil service recognition, the Employee of the Year Award. In international news, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Friday that a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine could not be declared unless it was part of a just and lasting peace deal that included Russia's military withdrawal. Russia must also pay a share of Ukraine's reconstruction and be held accountable for launching its full-scale invasion of its neighbor in February 2022, Blinken said in a speech during a visit to Finland, which recently joined NATO and shares a long border with Russia. And Cynthia Weil, a Grammy-winning lyricist of notable range and endurance who enjoyed a decades-long partnership with husband Barry Mann and helped write You've Lost That Loving Feeling on Broadway, Walking in the Rain, and dozens of other hits, has died at age 82. Her death was confirmed Friday by Interdependence Public Relations, which represents Mann's daughter, Dr. Jen Mann. A spokesperson did not immediately have further details. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shanda Gallego.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news. Brought to you by Tropical Plaza on Smith Road.
Yo, they just don't make things like they used to. I could throw my old Nokia into a brick wall and it would bounce back ringing. Today, seems like electronics are made to break, not work. When the gadgets go down, and they will, check out all about electronics in Tropical Plaza, Smith Road, the modern-day Inspector Gadget. Quality, professional repair service. All about electronics in Tropical Plaza, Smith Road. Specializing in repair, service, and installation of all electronics. All about electronics in Tropical Plaza, Smith Road.
Between the traffic, the meetings, kids' activities, there just isn't enough time. Best Health Pharmacy was a game changer. Not only are they centrally located on Eastern Avenue, but they deliver prescriptions for free anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. I could not believe it. When my prescription ran out, they ran it back to me. Best Health Pharmacy, located at Crown Square Plaza on Eastern Avenue, across from Edie's Decor, offering free prescription delivery anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. Call 949-1301 or WhatsApp your prescription to 924-5358. Best Health Pharmacy. Your health, your convenience is their priority.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back. And it's going to be so open line now to close out our Friday edition of Talk Today. Just a quick reminder for the climate change policy. Consultation period closes on the 30th of June. So the month has just started. Don't delay. But let's go to our phones. Welcome, good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Mr. Sterling, how are you?
Oh, I am great. And if you don't mind me saying, even better that I get to hear your voice. How are you?
Oh, you're just trying to be chocolate just for the evening.
Oh, man, listen, I'm making small steps to one day be able to indulge in my dark chocolate and sea salt. So hopefully I'll find my way there.
Yeah, well, I got some questions, and I know you don't like them, so that's
No, I love questions, but I love answers even more.
Sterling.
Yes, Mom.
Well, welcome to hurricane season.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just driving through South Sound, and the overhang of trees into the main street from private owner's yard is unbelievable. And I just heard your team just a couple of days ago talking about, making sure that your trees are trimmed and so forth and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that something need to start fast, because we don't know what we're going to get this year, and I hope it's nothing too major that we can't handle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if our trees are in the road, then, nobody can't cross to try to save someone's life or save their own life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And Sterling, you have these guys on for the last couple of days talking about the climate change and so forth. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not understand it 100% because I have not sat down for the whole 30 minutes or the whole hour and listened to everything that they are saying.
Mm-hmm.
But my question to this situation, what will be the remedy for this baby island, knowing that we are surrounded by water? And I heard one of your guests say this week or last week that in years to come, Cayman could be under water. I hope I didn't misunderstood that, and if I'm saying it wrong, I wish they'll call and correct me, because I don't mind being corrected when I'm wrong. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So, Sterling, is all good and well to talk about things, but we need to hear solutions for anything that could impact this island that we so-called home, knowing that we have nowhere to run to, And the only person that I heard and read that was Jesus walk on water, not a human being. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Follow me?
Uh-huh.
So I just concerned how this climate change, as it continue, I guess, being in progress, I could be wrong. What are the remedies and what are the solutions for the Cayman Islands and their people? Now, there was talking about the hurricane and shelters and so forth. And, there's a gentleman, I believe he's from West, I can't call his name, very intelligent young man. And he is always talking about shelters and so forth, and having, trade schools and so forth. Having shelters and maintaining the shelters and having them, I would say, practically in every district, because you do not expect Eastern and North Side to come to Modern Town. You understand? and you do not expect West Bay to come to Georgetown, every district should have a proper shelter. And that young man had to speak of so many feet above the ground, which I agree with him 100%. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say that, you know, they just came up with this, is it, what it called? Is it called a budget? Or I'm not sure what the word was that they used, but in regards to the airport expansion, okay? What you're going to do from what you're not going to do. And they mentioned all of this money that is going to be taken to do this and do that. And Little Cayman will not be in the forefront of that, knowing that they're going to do Cayman first and Cayman Brac. So Little Cayman is on the tail end, from what I gathered. But I didn't hear anything in regards to our jetways or when our visitors come in or our locals come in to not to be wet by the rain when it's raining. It is all good and well for these visitors to come here and want to step into the sun. I just step off an airplane. But, you know, I wonder what happens to us. We don't travel too, you know, and we don't want to come off a plane that is ice cold, air conditioned, and then got to step outside in the rain. Probably got a young baby or a little 5-year-old child, and you got to go down with an umbrella or take a chance and go down, and you could fall down on the strip trying to get to the terminal. So I haven't heard anything about no jetways that in this plan that they got together there. And, I want to know where all this money is coming from. They claim they're going to get it from here and there. But Sterling did sound like they're talking about another 20 years from today. Because they're going to get that kind of money within the next 2 years of this government.
Right.
I take my hat off to them.
But I mean, you know, the press briefing that they had the other day to, you know, publicly announce the proposal, 2,000 or so feet proposed extension into the North Sound, a longer runway and the like, the surcharge to our tickets, you know, like it was about $20 or so. I'll say this from two perspectives, just repeating much that is being shared in the public domain, whether comments in what we call social media, or whether just discussions we're having around our dinner tables, or even after church, or even, you know, as we sit by the bar stool or the restaurant table to enjoy our coffee, wherever we are, right? Not to be at this stage critical, whether it's constructive criticism or whether it's critical and condemning. From my perspective, not to be either one at this stage, just to repeat what I think many of us are already seeing, hearing, being shared by the populace. Two things, you just mentioned. One, where's the money coming from? How are we going to pay for it? Is it value for money, the timeliness and the like, despite the vision, the objective, the intent, the proposal? And then the second is, well, we just did the airport the other day under the, you know, our previous administration, and we spent, was it 100 million? Where's the accounting for that? Do we have value for that? How does that tie into this? What's the longer term vision? What's going to happen? Only to say that there was a student shared something that I got sort of second, third, fourth hand. So I wasn't there to hear the student say it. I can't tell you what school it was say that. I can't even tell you who the student was, just that this was a comment that a young, I think 14 or 15-year-old student shared. And it was something to the effect that is government's, not just this government, is a government's plan considerate of future generations, both in terms of the cost of whatever it's going to do, in terms from the perspective of how they're going to pay for it, and to what extent are they taking into account the impact on the future generation. Now, like I said, I didn't hear how the student phrased it. That was how it was presented to us who were listening, and I thought, wow, a little 14 to 15-year-old student at some school here in Cayman is that engaged. Now, you might say that's being sparked by the teacher. It might be something that you might say, well, that's the student's home environment that is, you know, speaking to those things. But at the end of the day, this is a student who may be talking to his or her peers and asking these questions at 14 and 15. Are we willing to engage them? Or are we going to dismiss them to say, well, they can't vote, and they probably won't vote because, by 4 years' time, they will be not old enough yet, and this and this and this. But what about 40 years' time?
Sterling, everybody has a vision. Don't care sometimes how small the individual may be. But it's just that they're not at the age or they have the opportunity to express themselves. And I'm going to tell you right now, for being a Caymanian and living here practically all of my life, a degree, and many more, I mean, we are still so behind in everything. They just want to keep us just dumb. So we need to learn what's going down. And I'm not talking about picking up stuff that's happening elsewhere to bring it into our country to try to pinpoint this and that to us. Let's talk about Cayman. Let's talk about Caymanians. Let's talk about where we are going, who is here for us, and what will be our next step. Because I'm going to tell you right now, majority of people here who is maybe a resident or citizen or work permit, whatever, they have a plan. We don't have any plan, Sterling. I haven't heard anything about worship anywhere nearby Cayman for the last God knows how many years until some time ago there with Mr. Bush.
Right.
They claimed that they brought worship in because of him. That is bull.
Can I ask you, and forgive me, I don't wish to inquire too much of you, but I respect your opinion. The worship, as you reference, we does that give you comfort? What?
No, it don't give me no comfort. Just that we under them, and I mean, I'm quite sure it gives some people comfort, but it's to the fact that we're under them. And it's not going to give me no 100% comfort because if they can't come to land to get us, we can't get to them. It's really no help to us. You know what I mean? But I guess by sitting out in the water, we say, well, England cares.
But and again, it's only because as I listen to the previous discussion and thinking back to our parents and their parents, and like the sense of resilience, the sense of independence, the sense of respect and responsibility for the community, the sense that you do for yourselves and for each other because you're your brother's keeper, not dependent on a government, whether it's your locally elected government, the master government, whatever it is. I'm wondering to what extent our people have lost their way and have become so conditioned that they rely on people to not only act for them but to think for them.
Well, that some of that is here, Sterling, because I'm going to say this, and I think they brought that in the right time. People see me and they say, "I'm not hearing you on the radio. What happened?" when I hear you, I turn the volume up. I say, "Well, Sterling has the programs on the radio, and I can't go on there every day, even if I have the opportunity to. I have a life too. You understand?" I know a lot of people probably say, "She don't have nothing else to do or what?" Well, let me tell you something. This is my island. And if I get opportunity to talk about my island and my people, I will. And I said a day that radio came and take me off. I have a very good sized yard at my house. I just put up some posters and invite the island to come and read them because I need to express myself. I got grandchildren, I got children, and I'm fighting for everybody. But for some people say, "Oh, you don't need to fight for me. I can fight for my own self." Well, I take my hat off to you. Fight for your own self. But as long as you live in Cayman, you need to fight for everybody.
Yeah. And that's the thing, we are advocating because it's to benefit, everybody, as you shared. But do you think then that there are not well, let me ask it this way. Do you think there are enough people like you who are willing to voice their perspective publicly and to advocate in such a way that maybe the powers that be, whether it's elected or appointed, whether it's in any of the areas of government, from the executive to the legislative to the judiciary, listening and making sure that their laws, policies, and practices reflect what is good for the country because the voice of the country is resonating loudly?
I really believe that a lot of people want Cayman to be better, but they don't have the gall, the nerves to come out and say, "Oh, I got so and die in the house, so I don't have nothing to fight for." And then again, they'll say, "Well, They can do what they want to do anyhow. But that's besides the point. You still got to stand up. Some people ask me, what did you accomplish? I say, well, if you can't see or hear, I can see and I can feel what has been done. When I say something, it may not happen overnight. But I've seen some things came to light, you know. Sterling, I want to say one more thing to you. I know you probably got someone else calling me. Sterling, I cannot understand. We got entities here. And as soon as something happens and you want to go and get your rights, that you feel is your rights, and you want someone to listen to you and someone to help you show that your rights is right. And when you go to people, you're going to hear that, oh, well, you know, this and that. It's like the off-rig. This little guy was asking this morning about the off-rig and in the light bill and so forth. And the Mr. Hunell say something to the effect that, you know, we got these companies here, but then again, it's like they're on their own limb. Is everything here? What the word is? What's the word again?
In relation to what? I mean,
we free enterprise.
Oh, okay, okay.
Are we so free enterprise that if you got off rig here and government don't have any power to a degree to turn anything, and the embellishment don't have any power to turn anything, and if an MP for public transport don't have power to turn something to benefit the people, what is the purpose of having them, Sterling?
You know, sometimes those are questions that are not asked, and certainly when they are, they're not answered, huh?
Not answered.
All right.
Not answered.
Good question, though. Thanks, huh?
Talk to you soon. You have a great weekend. Thanks.
Thank you again for everything, and you'd have a wonderful weekend as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Let's take a final break, and then if we have a call or 2 or 22, we'll see if we can take them all, but probably let's stay tuned.
How can you make a classic BLT sandwich even better? Well, by adding tuna. The land meets the sea in Subway's new sandwich, the Tuna BLT, available for a limited time. The Tuna BLT is exploding with flavor. Imagine crispy, juicy bacon strips on top of tuna, fresh lettuce, and slices of tomato, topped with your favorite sauce and choice of freshly baked bread. Enjoy the best of both worlds with the Tuna BLT from Subway. Subway, eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza, open Monday to Friday 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Freedom, Cayman Rack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne EBANKS.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And it is open line. I believe we have a call online. Not yet. Well, we're hoping to have one. Maybe we are speaking it into being. I know a few, actually just three individuals have messaged, hey, you're trying to get through. Well, trust me, the phone lines are open, and if you call in and it's not, picking up on this end, it is not us. With the greatest of respect to our great team here, and sometimes the technology doesn't seem to work for us. 949-6990 if that's your number of choice. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Any of those numbers work for you. Give us a shout. We have a few minutes of open line on this closing edition of Talk Today on Friday. Let's take this call. Welcome, good afternoon, thanks for calling.
Yes, good afternoon, Sterling. Dexter.
Hey, Dex, how are you today, man? I hope your guitar has been well tuned and you have some, plans to pen another song at some time so that you can perform it for us.
Yeah, working on it every day.
There you go, my friend.
Not doing me much good, but I'm working on it.
Hey, listen, if you don't work on it, not only will the body, but the mind, the talent, and the time will just go to waste. So you keep working on it. All right?
Yeah. Well, I guess my reason for calling is I'm kind of disappointed that I wasn't able to get on when you had those the guests on that was inviting everybody to come out for their religious service this weekend.
Can I ask you, and I don't wish to offend, only because you said it publicly, were you trying to call in as well?
I did, yeah. But he told me that you weren't taking any calls till 2 o'clock.
Okay. Oh, that was as you were wrapping. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. The reason why I'm asking because I've got 3 individuals who've messaged. I just want to check on something, and they have shared that they're trying to call. These are separate from the others who say, hey, you're still taking calls. So I don't know what's happening. I just wanted to confirm that. But you're here now, and if it's okay with you, can I listen to what you want to share if you wish?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well actually, I kind of have a bone to pick with you personally, Sterling, because...
Go right ahead, man.
You see, my contention in calling in and questioning or challenging religious people when they come on Radio Cayman is because that I noticed the fact that it's only one religion that you're promoting. And the government is not supposed to be promoting any one religion. We have multiple religious beliefs amongst us here in this island, according to the census survey.
Right.
Saying that we have different denominations, even within Christianity.
Right.
And I can't understand why is it that Christians are the only ones that get airtime. What if every other religious organization demanded equal time every time these Christians come on there to invite people out to their services? Would it be possible for Radio Cayman to handle that?
Okay, well, a couple of things, right? And I really, not only respect, I will promote, defend your right to share your perspective, right? So thank you for challenging me. But I want to ask, I want to with you first off, in our legislative assembly, as I believe in many parliaments, but in ours specifically, as they start their day's session, they read a prayer.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? In our parliament or legislative assembly, are you okay with that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
And that is because religion is true to the believer. It is false to people like me.
Okay.
And it is useful to leadership.
Okay.
And I do not agree with praying
before
any legislative or parliamentary.
And that is your personal belief, and you're certainly entitled to your perspective, right? And the reason I ask, because for me, it's religion and then there's relationship. Now, on a religious perspective, any of the other denominations. We've had a couple in the past, but if they reach out to us, and there are times we have reached out to them, but their response is, well, it's not convenient at that time. We reached out because we understand that they have a particular presenter from their faith on island, and we say, hey, would you like to come and share with the public? Because it's the different acknowledged religions globally, as you shared, reflected in the census. So they wasn't convenient for them. In that, what if the recognized religion is devil worshipping? Would you be okay with that on the air? We give equal credence? Huh?
I don't believe there's any such monster as a devil either.
Okay, fair enough. All right. And the other thing, just from my personal, perspective, this is me. Like I said, there's religion, there's relationship. I hope that I never change this practice, but I hope that I never do it religiously. I hope that I always do it prayerfully and reverently and with great respect and appreciation. So if I sit down to have something to eat, I believe it was my father's sort of example. It might have been words that he shared that I hopefully understood, accurately. I'm going to say grace and bless the food for two reasons. One, I have food to eat, and two, I can eat the food that I have. It could be a piece of bread and cheese with some water. It could be a fancy meal that has been served and prepared over days. I would like to say thanks for that meal. That's just me. Not to offend you or any of my dining companions. Are you okay with that?
That's fine. You can believe anything you want.
Yes, sir.
But you don't need to be out here trying to recruit other people to believe what you believe and then hate other people because they don't. And that's what goes on with Christianity. Christianity is the worst religious belief there is on the face of this earth when it comes to hatred.
Right.
Hate
Right.
more people than anyone else on this earth.
And that's kind of why I think, I believe you sense and know my respect for you as a person and my willingness to make sure that you, like everybody else, not just you, the individual, but you specifically in this instance, get to share. I share your view that maybe we need to be very careful sometimes in how we express ourselves, that we're not so insistent, so dogmatic, so forceful that we are, offending other people. There's this notion of tolerance, but it only goes one way. You got to tolerate me, but I can't tolerate you. So with that in mind, if you would allow me to ask, the religious person who is recruiting, you feel that's not appropriate, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Because and you're promoting something that you can't prove is true. That's
Okay.
the problem with it. Is truth don't matter to people?
Right.
Does truth not really matter?
Okay.
Is it not more important to try to seek what is true
Yeah. Out of fear that it,
as opposed to what you believe?
yeah. If I may ask, and out of fear that it may inflame people and somehow I may say it disrespectfully. It's not my intent, but doesn't mean that it won't happen. Given what I understand you to say in terms of recruiting and propaganda and pushing forcefully a particular agenda, whether it's religion, how do you feel about two things? One, the political movement, a party or ideology, and that political movement going into the community, public meetings, into schools and the like, and saying, hey, the political mantra is strong capitalism or communism or whatever. How do you feel about that particular entity, that group, in that thought process, and then going in and, if I could borrow your word, recruiting others? How do you feel about that?
Man, Sterling, you go off on a monologue on me most of the time.
No, sir. Sorry, I don't mean to.
Off of my train of thought.
No, man, it's the same.
And you come up with questions that really has nothing to do with the fact that it seems like what I need to do is lobby the parliament for them to make it official that Christianity is the religion of the Cayman Islands, and we need to publish that around the world. Let the whole world know that the Cayman Islands is a Christian nation. That's what we need to do, and then I'll be fine with it if it's law. that the government is able to legislate based on their personal beliefs and their religion. What country is it that is acceptable?
But again, and forgive me because I don't profess to know a lot about anything, right? But if the Christianity is sort of the official accepted ethos or religion of Cayman, what about other nations for which the religion may be something else? It may be Islam. It may be,
It's not right in any case, Sterling. Using religion to control people is not right in any case. It is wrong whatever part of the world it is. It's wrong. Religion should not come into legislature.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for letting me ask you a question. It certainly wasn't to put you off, but as you were sharing that, I was wondering if it would matter if it was a religious entity sort of out recruiting, if it was a political entity out recruiting. What about a lifestyle entity? What about those individuals? And again, I don't even remember what the letters are, but the LGBTQ2 stuff, and they're out, sharing their message. How do you feel about that? Is that okay?
I think those people are only out there trying to find justice for their own equal rights as human beings. They have a right to live the life they choose,
right? Okay.
And not be dictated to as to what they should do in their bedroom.
Mr. Dexter, I think it would be, something that we would like to offer to you again publicly if you ever have time. Come one Thursday or one day and be our guest in the studio. Would you?
You bet. I'll do that anytime.
All right. I think I had your number. Do not disconnect, right? Make sure to give it to the good gentleman, and then I can call you. We can arrange for you to come across.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Hang on. Anything finally before we go?
No, I just want to wish everyone a happy Friday and have a good weekend and take care of each other and be safe.
Thank you. And to you as well, man. Thank you for that. All right, stay on the line. Give him your number and let's connect. All right. All right. Well, it's Friday, as Mr. Dexter shared. And we know Art Week is amongst us. And I certainly appreciate, the wonderful artisans in our community and the like. Let me just share this message from one of our listeners. It says, I am not a believer in any religion, but I respect all those who believe in any religion. My country was built on Christian values. I respect that and will not dishonor that fact. And I think in that, we champion each other's right to have a voice and appreciate the corresponding responsibility to share it in a way that encourages greater dialogue. I may at times be increasingly seen to exercise an opinion. I may in times increasingly seen to be more and then willing to engage. And I think I draw courage and strength from others who share their view, even if they're on the periphery, even if they are the sole voice. And I think that's where the strength of a community comes in. If Mr. Dexter is still living, call us back and give us a number if you still want to come on, because we don't have the contact details. But a few things of note. Well, first and foremost, Monday morning, God's willing, join Mr. Art for the record. You got a lot to discuss over the weekend. You can share with him, during Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and his wonderful show for the record. Come back for talk today after the midday news and the like. The second thing, our government that is elected, our civil service government that is appointed, our board members and other that are recruited to serve in their various capacities through statutory authorities and the like. Are we all in this notion of good governance, and we all respect that we have this shared vision to do the very best that we can for today and for future generations. And there are times when we must engage in dialogue. We must question. Even though we trust the source, we must verify. And when we don't trust the source, even when we know that there's not something, exactly accurate, that we need to, question it and advocate for truth and honesty and timeliness. It's a lot that's going to happen. The question is it going to happen for the good? It's going to happen for the good because you're a part of making it? Or are you going to sit and cry over the spilled milk and then, say, I wish I could, I should, I must? Well, time will tell. Have a wonderful weekend. Come out this evening, be a part of our week. Stop by Al's place, see the good work of Nobi and all the other artisans that are on display, and be reminded that this is indeed a wonderful place. Some would say one of the better places. Some would say, the best. Well, it is and it will be if you are your best. Until Monday, my friends. God bless.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles.